We have the most aggressive reentry program in the country. We have a new conditional pardon program for youthful offenders. We are working to end warehousing in prisons and moving towards educating and rehabilitating as an operating mantra for our correction systems.
And that, of course, Governor Cuomo at his State of the State address this week, where he pushed for better education for inmates. Now, that's one of the reforms that experts say could help reduce the recidivism rate. Easy for me to say. Also, nobody debates that help is definitely needed, because look at these numbers. 68% of inmates are arrested again within 3 years of release and 77% within 5 years. Well, joining us now is Sean Pica. Sean is Executive Director of Hudson Link. It's a group that provides college education, life skills, and reentry support to incarcerated and formerly incarcerated men and women. Pica is himself a former prison inmate who got a degree while inside. And for full disclosure, myself and Dominic, and I know Andrew is also, we've both been very supportive of this program over the years. My brother even far more so than even myself here. It's a fantastic program. I'm not going to pretend to be objective on this one. I think it's great.
You definitely drank the Kool-Aid.
Yes, I did. Well, as I said to Dominic, you go to one graduation and come back and tell me if you feel different. And as Dominic has said, he went in a cynic and came out a believer. Okay. First, let's do the obligatory, because people out there, there's going to be cynical folks here, and I understand and respect the cynicism to this. Give the 2-minute Reader's Digest about you. You went in as a teenager into Sing Sing, a maximum correctional facility, and you didn't even have a high school degree, right? And now you walk out.
So when I was 16, I got arrested for a crime I had committed. Good neighborhood, good family, had never been in trouble before. New York is one of only 2 states that sentence you as 16 as an adult. So I found myself in a world that I didn't know existed. When I got there, serving a 24-year sentence, I personally thought my life was over. I couldn't even wrap my head around the fact that I'd be there for 24 years. It was the officers that came to me and asked if I would help some of the other men that were living there learn to read, because I was one of the most educated guys there, and I'd only gone to the 9th grade.
My God. And fast forward, you walk out with a cap and gown.
Yep. I was able to go to college while I was there. In the 80s, it was funded through Pell. When the Pell funding was taken away, I had 118 credits and no degree, and left without finishing. Hudson Link was formed, and I was able to get my bachelor's degree with Nyack College. And as I was walking out of the prison, the warden himself asked me if I would help stay on to run the program.
Again, Hudson Link, for viewers of the program, you're probably familiar, it's a nonprofit, totally private funds that are raised. Colleges, and there's plural, do yeoman work here. The guys do the real classes that all the real kids do, and they don't get to go to study halls or dorms. They're going back to C blocks and the rest here with no slack. And again, I advise, if you ever get an opportunity, I've done commencement addresses where former presidents have delivered them. I've never been to an event, and I know Dominic will echo my sentiments, where you see these. And for the first time, right, Dom, at least for me, you had pride in families. Forget about the grads, right? The families themselves.
Richard, when you first mentioned a few years back that you wanted me to go to the graduation, my initial reaction was I rolled my eyes and I was like, oh my God, I've grown up with all these guys that got game. They're cons. They committed the crime. Let them stay there. That was my attitude. And then I got there, and I met Sean, and I met everyone else. And halfway through the graduation, I was in the back hiding because I was crying, and I didn't want anybody to see me crying. You get there, and people that have been convicted of doing some very serious things, but we all fall down. The question is, do you get back up? And these are guys that, as I said last night, whether we like it or not, something I learned from these folks, they're going back to the community. And they will have more of an impact with those young boys than anybody at this table will. So why not make them a role model? Plus, what I learned from you guys, and this is your point, but I'm saying this objectively, as someone that loves the program, it's cheaper for the taxpayer. It's much cheaper. They're gonna get out.
So we're clear, Hudson Link, and there's programs, some like that in the country, they're continuing without 1 cent from the taxpayer. However, what we heard from the governor this week is a departure from that. The premise being, as Dominic said, instead of spending 50 grand a year plus to house these inmates, when they get out, not that they get a break and get out early if they get a degree or anything else here, but when they get out, and they're gonna get out, more than 90% of them are, the numbers that I showed you, 70, 65%, whatever, the rates of recidivism, and it's not just they go back, they do something bad to go back. Somebody's getting hurt, somebody's getting robbed, bad things are happening. What is the rate of recidivism? And again, we're not just talking choir boys who walked in there. People that got convicted and served time for really serious offenses. What's the rate of recidivism for a Hudson Link grad?
Before I say what it is right now, for the first 13 years we operated, we did not have a single student go back to prison. Not one. Right now, in our 15th year, we have less than a 1% recidivism rate.
Okay. So even if you're objective, whether you're Republican, Democrat, and I got to tell you, I've seen the Steve Forbes of the world here and conservatives right there. I mean, the Buffetts are behind this, and then you've got the liberals on the other side, the Belafontes and the rest. The politics don't matter to this one. What's practical and what's smart? Now, I want to give you, and we invited on the program Legislator Lawler from New York, is a very big critic of the idea of any taxpayer dollars going towards this. He couldn't make it today, to be fair. We didn't give a ton of notice, but he's got an open invitation to come into the program. So I'm going to read some of the comments and the criticisms that came about in April when the governor first floated this, and by the way, pulled it back as soon as he got any heat for it. But anyway, when he first floated it, and you give me the response. One of this is, hell no to Attica U, which is, why are taxpayers going to be throwing in money? And I'll give you the quote from Rob Astorino, who's the Westchester County executive, frequent guest, and Andrew's had him as recently on Newsbreakers as well. He was obviously an opponent who lost the last go-round in the gubernatorial race and probably will be an opponent at the next governor's race to Andrew Cuomo. He said the following. He said, he and his wife are trying to save to pay college for the kids. And he said, maybe our 10-year-old son, we should sit him down and explain how to rob a bank, because that way he could get a free education in prison instead of us taking out 100 grand in loans. What do you say to a guy like him?
I'm very honored that I had an opportunity to take advantage of the time I was in prison instead of just sitting there and wasting away. However, I will say that I would not recommend anyone go to prison to get their education. And I would gladly trade my college experience with yours in a second. However, while I was there, took advantage of the opportunity, went to school, got a great education from Nyack College, was able to then leverage that upon release to get a great job. Those are things that any student after college would want to do. I will say that every single part of this investment was an investment in not my future. It was an investment in the community that I'm going back to. That investment in that community, as I go back as a helper, as a taxpayer, as someone, as a role model to some of these younger guys that will only listen to guys like myself that have made mistakes for whatever that reason is, we have leveraged that. Our alumni that have returned back to the community have come back as social workers, caseworkers, as role models. We speak at high schools. We've made a movie last year with HBO that highlights these positive aspects. That's not about my future. It's about our community.
To the argument, though, someone would say, that's great. Keep doing it the way you're doing. But keep the tax dollars up because of the equity concern. Everybody knows how unaffordable college is becoming for so many people. Why should somebody at home who's playing by the rules struggle and maybe not even be able to go to college because they can't afford it, but somebody behind bars can?
I think the big piece is that we do this so inexpensively because we have college partners that really care. We're able to raise private monies to do it, and in pulling these monies together, finding college partners that care, it really is so cost effective that we don't even take into the account that every student that doesn't go back to prison saves New York taxpayers millions of dollars a year without even an investment in it.
And also, not everybody can go to, if it's not like anybody raise their hand and say, I'm going to college, right?
No.
Well, the other thing is, look, we've moved away for the past 30 years now from rehabilitation to incarceration. Incarceration in New York costs $60,000 per inmate. From a conservative perspective, if we attribute those dollars towards rehabilitation, but keep it in the criminal justice system, that saves us a whole lot of money in prosecution and incarceration. And it is a conservative perspective because we're spending way too much money to put the same people back in jail. The numbers don't lie. Nobody can dispute the numbers, liberal or
It's
Democrats.
interesting. Lately, I've heard Republicans saying this, right? Also, drug
Koch
treatment
brother-
programs instead of
Look at the Koch brothers,
incarceration.
look at Boehner, criminal justice reform, and the Koch brothers, they're
Yeah.
saying, well, we want $900 million to support the Republican candidate. They're talking about criminal justice reform from a fiscal perspective because it saves money. The recidivism rate is high. The revolving door of people going in and coming out just through incarceration with no rehabilitation hurts society, hurts our community, and hurts our pockets.
A lot of these are some of your clients, right? And when they're
Absolutely.
going in, they're going to come out worse, right?
There's no doubt about it.
Richard, I know you're short on time. I just want to say this one thing. Keep in mind the families. That's a big part of the story. When you're there covering the graduation, you're looking at a mother, maybe a father, a brother, a sister, a son, and after years of shame, years and years and years of going to visit their loved ones in prison, they're now going to visit them as a college graduate. That's the part that gets me. Because the family members, I can't describe the pride that they have.
Their backs are straight.
Yes,
You know what I
for
mean?
once.
Yeah.
For once, right. They're standing, right.
You want to say?
I would add for the parents out there who say, well, what about my kid? Why are we giving free college educations to inmates? It's really two separate issues. Everybody wants to make college more affordable. Everybody wants greater access to college. We should work to try to do that so that parents aren't struggling to figure out a way to get their kids educated. It really doesn't have anything to do with even public funding for prison education because it saves so much money in the long run and it's a societal good.
We got to wrap up, but finally, are you optimistic this time? I'll say it so you don't. The governor floated as a trial balloon. As soon as he got resistance, he popped it, all right? Didn't exactly have the stick-to-itiveness. Do you think this time will be different?
I will say that though the governor has had a tough time getting this to where it is today, it is only here today because the governor pushed it. I'm on his council for reentry. He has not stopped pushing this behind the scenes since it came up in March 2014. This is going to happen now because he didn't let it go.
We will follow the issue. Sean, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dominic, Richard, thank you as well. Andrew's going to stick around here. Andrew was in our nation's capital this week for the State of the Union. Had a lot of interesting conversations. Governors, congressmen, a lot of others. We're going to share those with you after this.